Fletcher formulated the 6 fundamental propositions, which are his second set of guiding principles in order to determine what the most loving action in any given situation would be. These are a kind of summary of his main theory. Fletcher's first fundamental proposition is the ruling norm of any Christian decision is love, nothing else. Jesus replaced the Torah with the principle of love. Take, for example, his decision to heal or work on the Sabbath day, rejecting the obligations of Sabbath observance. The commandments are not absolute. Jesus broke them when love demanded it. Love replaces law. It isn't equalled by any other law. In addition, 1 Corinthians 13:13, St. Paul puts love at the basis of Christian decision-making. He says, all that remains is faith, hope and love, and the greatest of these is love. Fletcher's second fundamental proposition is only one thing is intrinsically good, namely love, nothing else at all. Only love is good in and of itself. Actions are not intrinsically good or evil. Intrinsically means belonging to or essential to. An intrinsically good thing is good in and of itself, without reference to any other thing. All acts are good or evil depending on whether they promote the most loving result. They are extrinsically good, so they are good with reference to their circumstances and consequences, which should be loving. Fletcher's third fundamental proposition is love and justice are the same, for justice is love distributed, nothing else. Love and justice cannot be separated from each other. Fletcher writes, justice is Christian love using its head, calculating its duties, obligations, opportunities, resources. Justice is love coping with situations where distribution is called for. Justice is love at work in whole communities for the whole community. Here justice means love fairly shared out amongst everyone. Where love is fairly shared out, then justice is achieved. Fletcher's fourth fundamental proposition is love wills the good of others regardless of feelings. The love that Fletcher is concerned about isn't a matter of feeling but of attitude. It isn't sentimental or erotic, but rather a desire for the good of the other person. This is the New Testament agape love. Your neighbour is anybody, and agape love goes out to everyone, not just those we like, but those who we don't like as well. Agape is unconditional love. Nothing is required in return. This is the kind of love that Jesus taught about in the New Testament through the story of the Good Samaritan in the Gospel of Luke. The Samaritan came across a Jewish victim of robbery and assault lying on the roadside. Several teachers of the law and rabbis had avoided the man since they were worried for their own safety. But despite the two cultural groups traditionally being enemies, the Samaritan man helped the victim, giving him physical and financial assistance to get to safety and restore his health. It is possible to wish someone well, even if you don't like them or what they stand for. Fletcher's fifth fundamental proposition is love's decisions are made situationally, not prescriptively. Jesus reacted against the kind of rule-based morality that he saw around him. There were Jewish groups that lived by rule-based moral systems, but Jesus distanced himself from them. Whether something is right or wrong depends on the situation. If an act will bring about an end that serves love most, then it's right. Fletcher believed that if people don't feel that it's wrong to have sexual relations outside marriage, for example, then it isn't, unless they hurt themselves, their partners, or others. People have autonomy, the freedom to make their own decisions, but they must use this freedom responsibly and apply love to each situation. Jesus' teachings are that it is not just the outer rules and laws that must be obeyed, but the inner spirit of the law. Jesus' teachings are more than a set of commandments. They are a challenge to the inner world of deeper motivation and intent. Fletcher's final fundamental proposition is a loving end justifies the means. To consider moral actions without reference to their ends is a haphazard approach. Actions require moral status as a means to an end. For Fletcher, the end must be the most loving result. When weighing up a situation, one must consider the desired end, the means available, the motive for the actions, and the foreseeable consequences. One must achieve a loving end, and one can perform any action in order to achieve this. In other words, the end must be the most loving result. When confronted by an ethical dilemma, one must consider the most loving result. Human beings should be treated as subjects, not objects. The life of each person is of significance. Exploitation of anyone violates love. Human beings deserve liberty to make judgments and decisions about their own lives. Do good, for Christians love your neighbour as you love yourself. Do no harm and prevent harm being done. Human beings ought to be provided with what is fair and what is deserved. And telling the truth is essential to promote and maintain respect for persons and for autonomy. It is clear from these 6 propositions that Fletcher's moral theory radically differs from traditional Christian ethics. It embraces a form of relativism, as actions are not intrinsically right or wrong. Actions are right or wrong depending on their result. For Fletcher, the good result is that which serves agape love, because any action that leads to that end is right. For example, whether any form of sex is good or evil depends on whether or not love is fully served. Finally, it is worth referring to conscience. What Fletcher means here is that when we refer to conscience, we are talking about our reasoning faculties. We reason after we have applied faith and trusted that love is the best thing. Then our conscience will weigh up how best to apply love in this situation. To judge whether an act is loving isn't just to wait until after the event. Instead, it is to look at the consequences that we are aiming for in order to try and judge if it will be a loving act. Each situation is judged separately by our conscience, before the event rather than after it has happened.